All right, we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I like to give people a few seconds to trickle in, just in case people are like me and scrambling from one meeting to the next and want to give people a second.
It's so real.
Yeah. Usually I sometimes have music playing, but I do not love all of the built-in sounds and musics that are available. I would wish I could use my own music, but it's copyright. So there you
You would just
go.
put your phone up to the speaker and be like, look at this amazing
that that
music
would
we have.
be that would be the hack. That's the workaround for sure. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's enough time to wait. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Career Chronicles. I'm Sloan. I'm your host. And we are so excited to be joined by Joelle Riding. I'm going to give her an official introduction here in a second. But just want to remind anybody who's watching what the Career Chronicles is all about. I am a tech recruiter. I work to place folks in IT into new jobs. And I have a heart for increasing women in tech and working with hiring managers to do that. So I wanted to bring on different guests to share their career experiences and lessons learned in the hopes that it helps other women in any industry, but especially in the tech space. And then also, I hope it helps hiring managers understand what matters to women and how you can best support us and better recruit and retain us. I also want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Spyglass Partners. This is an IT staffing firm that wholeheartedly believes in the same mission that I do, and wants to help increase women in tech, but also help folks find good talent, and for helping job seekers find their home too. So wanted to give them a quick shout out before we kick it off. I also wanted to say, if you're joining us live, please comment. We've already got one comment from Miss Samantha Wadvogel, or Samantha Andreessen, as some of you may know her. So hi, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Sam.
If you comment and introduce yourself, I will put it on the screen. If you have any questions for me and Joelle, put those in the comments as well, and I will share those to the screen. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce Joelle. Today, we're going to be talking about the art of the pivot, which I have to give Joelle credit for the topic and the phrasing, and I love it. I love a good topic title. But I'm going to introduce Joelle. She is the founder of the web design agency Dope Magic Co. After graduating with a triple degree, which, damn girl, triple degree in business management, marketing, and international business, Joelle embarked on her digital journey as a travel blogger. She built her blog from scratch and found her passion for web design and development. That passion bloomed into her own agency back in 2019, which is almost around the time that we met. Joelle has collaborated with coaches, companies, small businesses, and therapists, as well as estheticians, landing them appearances in major publications, TV, and podcasts. She's got quite the passport of experiences, having lived, studied, and worked in Cape Town, France, Belgium, South Africa, Austin, and the Pacific Northwest. And now she's proudly rooted in the Bluegrass state of Kentucky. So she's a fellow Kentuckian like myself. I'm so excited to also talk about a more recent endeavor of Joelle's. Her adventurous spirit led her to establish an adult summer camp in 2023. Feel like this is something that people are going to want to hear about. I feel like people are going to want to talk about this, and are going to reach out to you. So the camp is called Adult Wilderness Camp. And she gets to combine her passion for exploration and community. I know so many of us want to go back to our childhood summer camp days. And so this is an opportunity to do that. Joelle's on a mission to help women get in front of more people so they can make more of an impact and make more money through their digital presence. Yes, I love that. Whether you need a shiny new website, a killer redesign, an e-commerce setup, eye-catching landing pages, or anything in between, Joelle and her agency are here to make your digital journey smooth and filled with dope magic. So thank you, Joelle, for being here. So great to have you.
I'm so excited to chat with you. It's an honor, a privilege, and yeah, I'm just excited to dive in.
Yeah. So I love to kind of kick off where just saying very briefly how I know each of my guests or how we got connected. So Joelle and I share the same best friend, Miss Sam, who's here with us. So I think that makes us best friends by default as well when you share the same best friend. I think that's how that goes. So I just wanted to share that. As far as kicking off our conversation about the art of the pivot, just tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the significant pivots you've had to make over the years.
Yes. Well, hello everybody. Excited to be here, and I love connecting with community. So this is going to be an exciting chat, and have definitely made a lot of pivots in my life. Literally, when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I was like, well, like I could talk about web design, I could talk about, tech, but I think pivot is something that like we've all probably experienced in our life at some point or want to maybe. And so I was like, let me think back on the amount of pivots that I have made, and the list is not short. So just some like pivots that come to mind that I am excited to share about on here is after college, I was 21. So I was like a very young graduate.
That's right. You're younger than me. I think you're even younger than I am.
Yeah. So a lot of people in my grade were like 22 or 23 when they graduated college. And so I remember I was 21 and was just yearning for more like life experiences than before like getting into the workforce. So instead of looking for like a corporate job right away out of college, I ended up moving to Europe. And so that was a very big like,
that's scary.
I would say, yeah, of just like, oh, like a lot of my friends, all my friends were joining corporate world or trying to find a job. And
well, those are like the common pathways.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I just felt like this pool of like, I feel young. I feel like I should like explore and do some stuff before I get a little bit older. And so I moved to Europe, I moved to France, and then ended up moving to Belgium as well, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But other pivots have been, I moved to Portland during the pandemic. And after only living there 6 months, it was a very challenging time. I ended up then moving to Austin. So that was a very like quick pivot that was really beautiful how that ended up working out. I got a corporate job there for a little bit and was like an full-time entrepreneur for 3 years, got a corporate job. I'm now back to being a full-time entrepreneur, and recently have some other business that we're going to dive into. But yeah, lots of pivots, and
I want to know about that first one too. Yeah, because I don't know that making pivots ever gets any less scary. Maybe it does a little bit over time, or maybe it will for us when we get even older than we are now. But after making that first pivot, at 21, you kind of bet on yourself. You also honored yourself, which I want to call out, that you honored what you were feeling and what you needed at the time. So after doing that and making that first sort of non-traditional choice post-grad, how has taking a bet on yourself in that situation gave you more confidence to have future pivots?
Yeah, I always say that it's literally like working a muscle, where the first time that you make a pivot or you bet on yourself, like you build this self-trust and you really learn how to tap into like your inner guidance, your intuition. And the more you can like tap into that, I feel like the more you get used to like checking in before making the decisions. And so I know a lot of times I can sometimes just make a decision and it's like, oh, well, like this is what everyone else is doing, without taking like just that little bit of time to be like, wait, like, let me check in and like, is this what I want? Is this what like my body is like feeling safe to do? Like there are ways to check in that feel, that just feel true and honoring yourself. And so I think that the more you learn to like trust that little voice and to trust that guidance, the easier it gets.
Yeah, for sure. Are there pivots you've had to make in starting your own business endeavors? I know you're an entrepreneur and you've had multiple different business initiatives. What kind of pivots have you had to make in that regard?
Yeah, well, I have a very fresh one recently that I was like, let me talk about this one, because this I feel like is something that could apply to any sort of job or market. So recently we build websites. So we build websites for estheticians predominantly. And part of being a web designer is you connect with other web designers in your network. And something that a lot of web designers and web design agencies do is they create templates. And the idea is like, oh, like you create this template once and then you sell it, and you're able to like market to, an audience that maybe is just getting started or can't afford a really big website development yet. And so I was in the process of like, all right, like the last few years, I've just always told myself I need to build templates. I need to create templates. And in the last couple of months, it just kept feeling sticky. It felt like I was trying to shove like a square peg into a hole. And I was just like, well, this is what everyone else is doing. Like, this is what I need to be doing. And I remember a couple weeks ago, I like sat down with my social media manager and I was like, Lauren, you're going to hate me, but I don't think I want to sell templates. And she was like, oh,
Yeah.
she's like, I was waiting for you to come to the conclusion. Like,
she was watching this happen. When are you going to realize it, Joelle?
right. But like, I was so stuck in my head of like, this is what everyone does. So like, I should do it. And I realized a lot quicker, I think, than I used to, of like, oh, well, I'm 2 months into like really marketing and talking about it. I'd rather pivot now than further down when you've gotten more work and you've done more. And so
that's an example of having you've already gotten faster at recognizing the need to pivot and faster at accepting it and being confident in making the pivot.
Yeah. And so walked away from that and like have felt like, it just felt like the right choice. And since then have been like very much rewarded in just other ways, other ideas and other things are popping up that like I don't think would have if I didn't have and create the space for leaving the templates behind. So that's been a recent pivot that I was like thinking about of, all right, like moving forward, we're not going to do what it feels like everyone else is doing.
Yeah. I want to call out something you said that I think I hadn't really thought about until today, that, some of our biggest hurdles to making pivots is that groupthink mentality of what is everybody else doing? I think that's a big part of it. If everybody else is going to a corporate job after I graduate, then that's what I have to do. And I think we're all a little bit susceptible to that peer pressure. But another hurdle to it is your own expectations of yourself. And you had, what you expect is traditional for you to do or what you always planned to do. And if you set out on this path of everybody's doing templates, this is what I expected to do of myself, it's hard to imagine any other alternative. So I think those are, the blinders. And I think those are some of the biggest, what prevents or the biggest roadblocks to making these pivots. And I see it a lot as a recruiter when I'm helping job seekers. There are folks that have always imagined a next step for themselves. And in this market, we know this job market is terrible right now. People are having to make a lot of different pivots, whether that's applying to jobs that they wouldn't normally apply to, whether that's taking a step back and doing maybe more personal endeavors. And so that's part of my job as a recruiter, is to kind of counsel people through that. So this conversation is helping me understand, what gets in the way of making a pivot. And I think those are some of the challenges for sure.
And I know we can working with a recruiter. Like,
it's nice to have someone
get out of that box that maybe they've put themselves in, or they like can't see any other possibilities. Like, that's the beauty of working with mentors, coaches, recruiters, like people who are outside of your own brain, because they're going to be able to like see things differently than you would on your own.
Yeah. And we do the same thing with hiring managers on the flip side of our job, as I'm helping hiring managers think outside the box of who they're hiring. This is a profile you might not have normally considered, but maybe you need to make a pivot. And maybe this is the kind of, candidate you need to be looking at who will really fit what you need to drive your business forward. So I think we do it from both sides. So I think that pivot conversation is important from a lot of different angles. For you personally, or what you've seen in other people, what are some of the benefits that you've had of making a pivot?
Yeah, I love to throw in a plot twist, because
well, we know you're watching Friends for the first time, so you love a plot twist.
Oh my gosh, Friends. We could go on a whole tangent about that.
We'll have another podcast for that.
We really should. I know that you are obsessed with Friends, and I've loved sharing my journey with you and with others. And it's wild. Like, I'm having so much fun, like, watching it. And I have no idea. I have avoided all spoilers. And so it's been fun.
You're a unicorn in that way. You're like the last person on earth who has not seen Friends. And I love it.
Now I feel maybe like I'm a loser. I'm just kidding.
No. Well, maybe you're just non-traditional. You've watched shows that are maybe a little more avant-garde, and you're just a cooler person than the rest of us.
I'm just so artsy.
You're cool girl, Joelle. Anywho, so the benefits of pivoting.
The benefits of pivoting, I think I mentioned on it earlier, of just like this idea of self-trust. When you learn to bet on yourself, and when you learn to tap into your inner guidance and your tuition, it becomes a stronger muscle, and you make decisions quicker. So a lot of times, I know me personally, like, I have stayed in places or continue trying to push through things that like were not working for much longer than I should have. But as time has gone on and I've like realized the signs and the way that like my body even feels, like it's something that like I can make a lot quicker. And so when you learn that, you're not gonna, waste precious time. Like we have this one life. And so if you can like tap into that quicker, then even better.
I love this because I am someone who suffers from indecisiveness. And I think becoming a better decision maker is such an important skill, and it's so transferable. I mean, you need it in almost every field I can think of. You need to be able to trust your gut and make decisions quickly, weigh the pros and cons, do the SWOT analysis in your head. I think, what you're talking about is that self-trust, you strengthen that muscle. I love the analogy of that. So the pivot can be incredibly important in helping you build that. So we almost should all be trying to make pivots more frequently to stretch those muscles and strengthen them.
Yeah. And like decision making, like you said, we can all get caught up in like making the wrong decision. And like,
oh yeah,
yes, there probably are wrong decisions, but also there are
don't drive your car off a cliff. But
right.
But if you're deciding between like, am I going to take this job or this job, like assess which one feels right to you. But if you go down this path or this path, there's probably going to be amazing learning opportunities either way. And I think that's what we've got to give ourselves, relieve some of that pressure in, not feeling like we're going to ruin our future when we make decisions.
Literally, what is meant for you will not pass you. I think that quote almost daily of just, it relieves some of the pressure to make a decision and not feel like it's going to be the wrong one.
Do you feel like, because I know I mentioned groupthink earlier, and we can all fall subject to groupthink of like trying to do what everybody else is doing, but do you feel like now that you've made so many pivots, do you think you have the pivot think where you're always looking for opportunities to pivot? Like, where can I do something different and make a change for myself?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's definitely, I think that I'm not as scared to make a pivot.
Yeah.
Where if something does arise where I'm like, oh, I need to do this, like I'm not as scared and get like frozen in that, like, in that place of like what could go wrong, what, like that mentality.
You're more open to it. You're like, oh, okay. You're just more open-minded about it.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm necessarily seeking out pivots.
Who wants to create extra work for themselves? If you're always pivoting, then you're never doing anything for very long. So
right. Exactly.
That would be an opposite problem.
That'd be an opposite problem. And so if you pivot too much, then that presents its own challenges. But
you pivot enough, you're just in a 360, you're just spinning around in circles. So we don't want that. Well, I want to also ask you, if you put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager, and we haven't talked about, if you've hired for your team, I'm sure you've hired people at some point. If you're in the shoes of a hiring manager and you're looking at a resume, I know there's a huge conversation right now about resume gaps. And some hiring managers, I've worked with hiring managers, I've seen this happen where they will push back on gaps. They're like, well, what were they doing from 2020 to 2021? Or why is there this large gap on their resume? And it can be seen as a red flag. There's a lot of recruiters like myself who are trying to be a part of this conversation that it should not be a red flag, especially when we've had so many major layoffs happen. For you, if you were a hiring manager and you've seen someone on their resume make pivots and take different risks in their career or with themselves, how would you view that?
Oh, I personally would love to see it, because hopefully in that time, which obviously everyone's going to be in a different situation, but hopefully in that time, because you do have this gap, you have been able to do some self-reflection. You've been able to like close the previous chapter of your life, whether that's, mourning, grieving, self-reflection. Like whenever we end a certain chapter, end a job, or, that comes with change, and that comes with like, we do need to create space for it to like, let it go and let it be released. And so I love seeing that gap, because hopefully you took the time to, reflect on like, okay, like what did I love about that job? What did I not like about the job? Is this job market, is this job industry like something I still want to move forward with? And if you're just, jumping from like job to next job to next job, so perhaps sometimes you're not giving yourself that opportunity to like do a quick check-in of like, well, I'm headed on this trajectory. I'm on this train. Is this the train that I actually want to be on?
Yeah, somebody stop this train. I got to get off. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think it could lead to better retention for hiring managers, picking from people who know themselves. And this isn't always true. There's people who have gone straight from one job to the next that do know themselves and do know what the right next step is. We're not saying that it's mutually exclusive, but we're definitely saying that gaps should not be viewed negatively. They should be viewed as an opportunity for this person to have really a lot of self-assurance and bring a new perspective and value to your organization, and could potentially know themselves better in order to make a long-term career choice and stay with your organization longer. Whereas I think the opposite is what's actually being believed by hiring managers, is when they see those gaps, they worry about retention and job hopping and things like that. But I think the opposite might be true.
Yeah. I am in agreement with you. So
yeah, no notes.
We're engaged there.
I love it. I also wanted to get your opinion. So because a lot of job seekers are in my network, and I'm a recruiter, so I talk to job seekers every single day. I wanted to get your input on how can job seekers best market a pivot when they're trying to prepare for applying to jobs or interviewing for jobs.
Yeah. So I love the two words that like come to my mind when it's, this idea, like you're in a job interview and maybe someone's asking you like, oh, I noticed this gap. Like what?
The dreaded question. Like, I feel like we're all just like, don't ask about that, please.
Right. And so I think that a way that you can phrase it or talk about it is two things. So one, like make it as I'm self-aware. Like I am self-aware because I took the time to think about what I actually wanted, to think about what direction I want to be headed, if I'm in the right place. So I'm a self-aware person. And I think that is a quality that I hope all of us aim to have. It's a beautiful thing to be self-aware for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your job place. It's a great quality
100%.
to have. And I think that the other characteristic that comes forth from that is I'm adaptable. So if you have had a big pivot, or if you did get laid off, or something happened where you're not in that same job anymore, so being able to say like, I know how to adapt. I'm going to always end up on my feet. I'm going to figure out what do I need to do next. And as job seekers, like recruiters, having that in a employee, I would hope an employer, if you're working for an employer that is stuck and rigid and has always done things the same way, like maybe they do need a little bit of people like you who are adaptable and who could come in and breathe that fresh life and can see something and can see how things have been done and offer a new perspective and not be scared to raise their hand and be like, well, actually, like, what if we did this? And I think that adaptability is another beautiful thing that comes from challenges and pivots that hopefully, will help you in the job place, because we all hopefully want an employee who can be adaptable.
Can pivot and be adaptable and solve problems with new perspectives.
Solve problems with new perspectives. Absolutely. So being self-aware and being adaptable, I think, are two beautiful characteristics that you can talk about in.
Yeah. And I think in interviews, you can talk about this when you're asked about it. I think if you're asked about, tell me about a time when you've had to pivot, or tell me about a time when you've had to be adaptable, those are opportunities to weave it in as well. And there's a lot of conversation about how to answer the tell me about yourself question. That's a big topic right now. And I think when I'm telling my story in an interview, I know you want to keep that answer short and sweet, but I think there is an opportunity to weave in any major pivots you've made and how that's helped you learn more about what you want to get out of your career and how you're going to bring that to this role. I think that's a perfectly appropriate thing to weave into that tell me about yourself answer.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, I think because people don't, I hate getting that question, but we've got to be ready for it because we know it's always the first question asked in the interview.
Always,
Sam agrees with us. Very insightful. I think, there's definitely pros to hiring people that have resume gaps. We've talked about different reasons on this podcast. We've talked about different reasons why you might have a resume gap, taking a break to care for a family member, a child, or an aging parent. These are experiences that make us, you've said, more self-aware, but more adaptable, more resilient, bringing fresh perspectives, more compassionate, just better people all around. And so I think these are people that you want on your teams. So I'm glad we got to talk about that. We are coming close to the end of our time. I do want to make sure I get to ask you the question that I wrap up every podcast with, and that is, when or where have you felt most empowered as a woman?
Well, I loved this last summer of being the year of the Barbie. I literally wore my pink sweater today. I wore my pink sweater today because I was like,
Barbie girl.
go ahead. I loved this last year. Like, it was such a beautiful season of embracing girlhood and embracing women and female friendships. And last year was a very transformative year for me. And at the end of the day, like, when I look back at who was around me and who supported me and who loved me, it was women. It was my female friendships. It was my mother, my sisters. It was women. And so this last year, I felt so empowered to be a woman. And I know that, like, being a woman comes with amazing benefits and also challenges. But it's been a beautiful year, I feel like, of reclaiming the beauty of being a woman and how much we add to the table and our unique perspective, and how our creativity and our femininity are just beautiful things to be celebrated. And I'm very grateful, and I love being a woman, and I'm excited to see how every year I feel like women are just beginning to rule more of the world.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I couldn't agree more. I think that's such a beautiful sentiment. And I appreciate you being here and sharing that with us. Thank you for coming on the Career Chronicles. You'll have to come back. I want to talk more about the Adult Wilderness Camp. Where can people find information about that and about Dope Magic Co? I want to point people in the right direction to get in touch with you before we turn off the stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. It's always such a joy to chat with you, and you're so insightful and so good at your job.
You are too.
Thank you for letting me come on. If you would like to connect with me, I mostly live on Instagram, dopemagic.co. I also have my website, dopemagicco.com. And then for my adult summer camp, we do have 2 camps. If you're an adult, if you want to come back to summer camp and enjoy being a kid again for a weekend, if you're near Kentucky, we have an August camp and we have an October camp, and you can find those on our website, adultwildernesscamp.com. We would love to have you and get to hang out with you.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Joelle. It was amazing to see you as always. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for watching this live or recorded. It was great to see you guys. Comment any questions. Joelle and I would love to keep the conversation going. But thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.